Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City of Annapolis Board of Appeals regular meeting for June 4th, 2024. Meeting's being broadcast on the City of Annapolis YouTube channel, so look your best. The agenda for tonight's meeting may be found on the City of Annapolis website. On the agenda, you'll also find links to the YouTube channel, to the comment forms, if anyone wants to file comments in a case you need to use the form on the city's website. And you'll also find a link to the city's database that has information about the cases that we'll be hearing tonight. So any written comments received by noon today and matters before the board have been provided to the board and the parties and will be made part of the record. I'd just like to remind everyone that communications with the board about any case by anyone other than a party to the case have to go through the comment form. Don't contact the board directly. Even for parties, if you need to communicate with the board, go through Kim Consoli, the liaison to the board at the Department of Planning and Zoning. No one should contact any member of the board directly about any case. So Ms. Consoli is not able to be with us tonight, so I'll call the roll myself. Mr. Zazali?
Present.
Mr. Walsh, I know can't be here. Dr. Chen?
Present.
Mr. Hector?
Present.
So we have a quorum, and we'll move along. Have the members of the board had a chance to review the agenda? If so, are there any corrections or additions?
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The agenda is approved. We also have before us, I believe, the minutes of the virtual meeting on May 22nd, 2024. Do we have any corrections or additions to the minutes?
No.
Is there a motion to approve?
A motion to accept as is.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, the
One
minutes are
abstaining.
approved.
I wasn't here that night, so.
Right. First is variance application 2023-0019. It's a variance application by Jose Serrano and Maria Pineda, property owners, for a 6-foot reduction to the 15-foot corner side yard setback requirement in order to allow the construction of a 1.5-foot by 16-foot single-story addition on the side of an existing house located at 11 Gilmer Street. This matter came before the board first on May 7th and then for deliberations on May 22nd. At that time, members of the board present voiced some concern about the application, and there was no motion to approve or deny the application. So the acting chair at the time noted that we didn't have an approval of the application. Upon review of the relevant provisions of the city code, it appears to me that the board is required to conduct an up or down vote on each application. So for that reason, I ask that the matter be placed on the agenda tonight for possible reconsideration. So I'm going to ask for a motion to reconsider and reopen for deliberations the vote on 23-0019. But first, I'd like to ask board members Zazali and Hector if you've had a chance to review the prior proceedings on this particular matter and if you're prepared to participate in the discussion tonight.
Yes.
I have read it and watched both the initial hearing and the subsequent hearing, so I feel qualified to.
Thank you for doing that, so we'll have you participate. So is there a motion to reconsider 2023-0019?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So as we move into deliberations, let me say, first, the applicant's requested an opportunity to clarify his testimony concerning the future use of the property. Unfortunately, our rules specifically provide that on reconsideration, no new evidence may be submitted. So we won't be hearing anything from the applicants. To refresh your recollection, the applicant needs a variance from the setback rules to rebuild this narrow house on a narrow, non-conforming lot. He would like to rebuild on the existing footprint, but widening it 16 inches on each side where the house narrows down. So the house would be essentially a rectangle. This would not expand the intrusion into the setbacks that already exists. And it's clearly the type of relief that we've routinely given to other people. So in prior deliberations, members of the board had some concern about whether the project was undertaken exclusively for financial gain because of certain testimony by the applicant about whether he planned to occupy the house. And that was the point that the applicant wanted to clarify. Well, I went back and reviewed the testimony on that point. And what I got from reviewing it is that when he applied for this variance, it was clearly his intent for he and his family to rebuild the house and occupy it. And it was only, he expressed some uncertainty about whether that was what was going to happen at the hearing, but it was really only as a result of neighborhood opposition that had sort of crystallized after the application was filed. And as I understood it, it's still his intention to move in if they can resolve these issues. I understand the issues that the neighbors raised. A number of them were addressed very articulately by Alderwoman Pindell Charles. I think a number of those issues have been addressed in working with the staff, and several of the others, like parking and traffic, are really not issues that are part of our consideration. So, subject to hearing from you all, my inclination is I'm persuaded by the recommendation of the staff and the director that to approve this is sound, and I'm inclined to vote for it, but I look forward to hearing from each of you. Mr. Zazar?
There was a lot of questions that went unanswered in both of the public testimonies. One of them was about this exclusively for financial gain. And then the question was, somebody asked the question, should we consider the fact that the work was started without a permit or with a permit? Who should know? Who should not know? There's lots of reasons why people start work without a permit, ranging from completely innocent misunderstanding of the requirements all the way through to blatantly ignoring known requirements for making one's life singularly easier, and then all the colors of the rainbow in between. But I don't think that really matters here, right? We're only hearing the evidence that's before us. And then one of the questions was, why do you need to straighten it out? Is it to make one's life easier? Well, there is the conservation of resources and energy. Building a square structure, a rectilinear structure, is efficient on resources, efficient on time, it's efficient on labor, it's efficient on building materials and costs, and all those other things that we should consider. Building a polygon, or whatever the other shape is terrible. It's not efficient, it's wasteful of resources, it's hard on built, all the reasons. And I can't conceive of a scenario where straightening something to the minimum relief necessary to make a modern structure by today's modern building standard on the footprint of the existing structure would not be something that this board, in all of the dozens and hundreds of cases that we reviewed under similar little minimum relief requests, we would not approve. And that would be my answer.
Thanks for your technical insights as usual. Dr. Chen?
I have nothing to add to what I previously said during deliberations.
Mr. Hector?
Nothing to add.
All right, is there a motion to approve or to deny? 230019.
Motion to approve variance request 230019 for the, based on the staff report, the evidence that's entered during both the testimony and the hearings, the deliberation before this board having met the requirements necessary under Annapolis City Code.
Is there a second? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Oh, that's a milestone. All right, congratulations, Mr. Serrano. You have your variance. We'll get a written decision out as soon as we can. Thank you. Our next case is variance application by Mount Zion Church property owner for variances to bulk regulations, including area setback and lot coverage in conjunction with a subdivision application to reconfigure 4 fee simple contiguous lots into 2 fee simple lots for the church and a single family dwelling located at 612 2nd Street and 208 Eastern Avenue. Welcome, Alderwoman Finlayson. Nice to see you. Good evening. So, Mr. Meekins, I have to confess this application has generated some confusion on my part, if not the other board members. So we look forward to you introducing the case and clarifying our understanding here.
Sure, no problem, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, and thank you, board members. My name is Mike Meekins, land use planner for Planning and Zoning, City of Annapolis. As the chairman said, this is variance case 2024-00005. And to reiterate what the chairman said, this is an application for multiple variances, but it is subsequent to a subdivision application by Mount Zion Church. And just to give you a little insight, like you said, 612 2nd Street and 208 Eastern Avenue, it kind of forms an L fronting on 2 streets that they're 4 properties. They're 4 fee simple properties that they own. And contained on those properties are, number 1, the church, which is on 2nd Street. And number 2, a single-family detached dwelling which fronts on Eastern Avenue. If you've read the staff report, the church has been in existence by, as far as I can tell, since approximately, I say 1908. The single-family house, which from what I can tell, reading some deed records, was originally or at some time used by the rector or the minister of the church. So basically the application for the subdivision process, the idea is to reconfigure those 4 fee simple properties into 2 fee simple properties. One would house the church solely, and one would house the single-family dwelling. One of the reasons for this reconfiguration is to clean up the lot lines that bisect the church building. The single-family house sits on its own lot. However, some of the associated improvements like the driveway straddle the lot line. And as you look at the house from the street, to the left of the house is an open lot. the point in all of that is the only real access the church has to maintain the rear of the church is through the vacant lot and then crossing over the lot where the fee simple house is. So the idea is to break those up so there's one lot that contains the church and one lot that contains the house, and the church would ultimately have access from Eastern Avenue to the back of the church. So that being said, I will turn it over to the applicant to.
Let me
sorry.
stop you before you do that.
Okay.
So the staff recommends approval
Correct.
that the applicant has satisfied the criteria for a variance. Walk us through which criteria apply. At one point, I mean, the staff report references 212850, but at some point you referenced 2154-160.
Yeah. So staff has gone over this multiple times, and I'll speak directly to basically the coverage limitations. So we're in the critical area in the IDA, intensely developed area. As it stands right now, the church would not meet they exceed the coverage limitations for both lots that they're on. So like I said, we have discussed this several times amongst ourselves in planning and zoning. And I will give you the nutshell version of this, and if you have questions, we can certainly get into it. But this subdivision proposes the two lots will not meet the City of Annapolis's coverage limitations.
But are they grandfathered?
Yes, and I'm going there. Okay. So I apologize for being lengthy, but yes. So the two structures predate the zoning code. They predate the critical area overlay regulations. Therefore, they're grandfathered. The staff of planning and zoning, went through the variance criteria for permitting variances, and we also looked at the critical area variance criteria. So the critical area variance criteria is mainly for waterfront development. And actually, in both of the criteria, it focuses on development or redevelopment. And in this case, there is no proposed development. It is simply reconfiguration of the, it's a consolidation of the 4 lots into 2 lots, therefore reconfiguring the lot lines. We, at that point, reached out to the Critical Area Commission, and the Critical Area Commission, the state does not regulate lot coverage within the IDA. So there's no limit on lot coverage in the IDA from the state level. At the city level, there's a regulation of 50% lot coverage. So again, when you reconfigure these lots, we don't meet, we exceed that lot coverage. To take it one step further, if these lots hypothetically were in existence today, the 2 lots, and they were above the 50% lot coverage ratio, if the applicant were to come in and request or propose redevelopment in those lots, the city of Annapolis would allow them to maintain or keep that lot coverage, but not exceed it. And I think that hopefully sheds light on some of the confusion that was seen or.
So you see this case as a straightforward case under 212850?
That is correct, sir.
Yeah. And I think I saw a note that the plat says there won't be any additional lot coverage.
Yeah, that would be a condition to the plat, on the plat.
What about making that a condition of the variance?
Yes,
That's fine?
yes.
Okay. So, thank you. And you were going to invite Mr. Schuman? Mr. Schuman, I think you heard a pretty good explanation of what you're trying to do from Mr. Meekins. We've heard it, we've read your application. So if there's something you think it's important to add, we'd like to hear from you, but we'd ask that you keep it as brief as you can.
He did a pretty good job, but I do have a couple things I just wanted to point out when the time comes.
Go ahead.
Well, do you want to?
Good evening. I am only here as a representative, not as the alderwoman, but as a member of Mount Zion. And we have hired Mr. Schuman to help us with the variance. So now I'm going to turn it back over to him, if you don't mind.
The record will show that was Alderwoman.
Alderwoman Sheila
Sheila
Finlayson. Do you need my address?
Sure.
131 Brightwater Drive, Annapolis, Maryland.
Do you want to swear them in?
Yes, I'm sorry. For each of you, do you affirm that, subject to the penalties for perjury, that the evidence you're about to give this evening will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Hi, so I'm Terry Schuman with Atwell, previously Bay Engineering. We have an address at 2661 Riva Road, Building 800, Annapolis, Maryland, 21401.
Nope.
So we're representing the Mount Zion Church on this application. We prepared the application. We posted the signs. And I don't, Mike, do I need to give a copy of the affidavit, Mike? Or? And the signs were posted on with proper May 17, 2024, with the proper notifications. I did have two exhibits, and maybe they're overkill, but I just thought it would be good to show a picture of the fronts, the street view of the two structures, in case you all may know, but maybe you don't know the location. And I thought I would just hand these out, and then I have one other exhibit. Can I hand them both out at the same time?
Sure.
Sure. Look at those.
Mike, will you keep track of those for Kim Consoli?
Thank you, Mike. Pictures are always worth 1,000 words, so I just thought it would, if you're familiar with the site, great, but if not, the one is a street view from Eastern Avenue facing the single-family dwelling home. You can see the opening between the two structures there. That's the flag lot, if you will, that would allow access to the back of the church, which they really don't. The church is built right now off of Sexton Street, and there's just nowhere to walk around the building, truthfully, and gain access. So this would, the reconfiguration of the lot would allow access out to Eastern Avenue. If they have a picnic or something in the back of the building, they would be able to access the back. I just want to read, the second picture was just a picture from Second Street and just the building, and you can see how tight it is to the adjacent properties and really limits the access to the rear of the site. The second exhibit I just wanted to point out was, so we took our administrative site plan that we submitted with the variance plan, and really simply what we wanted to do is just, we put all these setbacks that are required. Now, the church setbacks are typically are more than a single-family house setback in the R2NC, but the red squares on each of these lots, the blue lines represent the two lot lines. I just figured I'd highlight that, and so you could see the L for the larger church property, we'll call it the church property, and then the single-family dwelling is the smaller rectangle. So I added all the setbacks that are required by the code, and you can see there's the small red area, that's the buildable area. So if you applied all the setbacks on that building, that's your buildable area. Considerably small, probably typical of most properties in Eastport, that just, they're tight, small lots and confined, and pretty much probably anyone who wants to do anything in Eastport on some of these lots would have to require a variance. So I just thought it was helpful, again, for a picture, just to show you the, if you applied all the variances, the small footprint you'd be allowed. That's, kind of the hardship of what our case is. Beyond that, like you said, I didn't want to reiterate what Mike said. I thought he gave a good explanation. One thing I just wanted to point out that, the church is not, we're not asking for any additions, no additional impervious coverage. You're simply taking 4 lots that they own and re-subdividing re-subdividing those and reducing them down to 2 parcels. So no additions, no improvements are being requested with this application.
And you're comfortable with the condition that there won't be any additional lot coverage on either lot?
We are. That's what we're over the impervious. That's normal development in the city. So yes.
All right. And there are no habitat protection areas on site, I assume?
There are no environmental features on the site, no.
Questions from the board?
Since you're sitting here, not Alderwoman, I'm going to call you Sheila. So the residence, what is that being used for right now?
It's a rental property.
It's a rental property, okay, thank you.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell us, Alderman Finlayson?
Well, as both Mr. Schuman and Mr. Meekins have said, the church sits right on the property line, the rear of the church.
Yeah.
So we have no access until we can redo the boundaries. And in doing so, we're also giving the rental property some privacy. So they have their own yard that we don't impinge on because we're church, you understand? So it would serve the renters well, and it would give the church we can't even put a playground on our property because there's no room.
Right.
And so it gives us some flexibility.
Great.
Mr. Hector, were you going to ask me another? Oh, okay.
You finished, Mr. Hector?
Hello. Just high level. As the church owns it all, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Where did the impetus, the spark, come to take on this administrative effort? It's not an easy path. This could have been handled with an easement, a 100-year easement request for the tenant and the property. Problem solved. I'm not trying to talk you out of doing it. I'm just curious, how did this come to pass?
Well, you're confusing me.
It's not my
I
intent.
went to our experts, the planning department, and I said, this is what the church would like to do. Help us figure that out. And they directed me to Mr. Schuman's company. And so this is the path that
I'm not persuaded. The city advised you on how to do what you want to do, but where did it come? What was the spark that somebody decided the status quo for the last 75 years was not working?
Well, was it something to do with the possible sale of the residence?
well, it's not for sale. We do have a renter, and we have for many, many years. But I think there may have been some issues with you know, where does their yard end and the next property begin?
Yeah. And I'll-
Am I maybe?
You are, that's, and I understand, and I, as a landlord, I rent properties where the garage does not convey with the rent. So that's just something that's handled in the lease. You could have cordoned off the flag shape and say, that doesn't come with what I'm renting is this piece of the house and this much of the yard. That is what's for rent. And that would, but I understand if you want to permanently afford the congregation the option in the future to sell off the house cleanly without the complexity of this process later, it is prudent to separate the two because they are lengthy, each individually selling of the property and doing this administrative. They're complex individually, let alone if they got tied up together. So that could be the answer.
We did, this is, I just wanted to, we did talk about easements. That was an option to do this, but at the end, we really want a clean title.
Yeah.
For the future flexibility of the church.
That is a 100%
Yeah.
singularly
point.
appropriate answer. Okay, thank you.
Dr. Shen?
Yeah, I just need a little bit clarification because I think I'm slow and I apologize for that. How is it that this the variance will help access the back of the building?
So maybe I can go back to the picture.
I'm looking at this wonderful diagram.
Sure, but I was going to maybe go back to the pictures I presented, these pictures,
Okay, got it.
and maybe go to the second page and just, so what happens is off of, the church is off of 2nd Street.
Uh-huh.
It's a very tough act, on the one side, it's right up against the property line. The building is right on the property line. You can't get to the back of the rear on that side. On the other side, it's got steps and that's right up to the property boundary. So there's really very limited access to the rear of the site.
Got it.
So the idea was the church owned the property and they reconfigured the lot. Now go to the first page. You can see the open grass area, between those two lots, this picture.
I see that.
And that just allows them, if they're having an event out there, they could, pull out some chairs and bring it that way and through the grass area and bring it to the back of the lot. I mean,
But so what's confusing me is that access already exists. So I'm not sure why the variance is needed.
Again, it kind of just
For
cleans
that
the title and gives them the
purpose.
flexibility to clean the property lines up. So, in the future, if the single family, again, if they have a tenant or something that, is using that single family dwelling, they have the right to go over to, they own the property, but then they'll have clean title out to Eastern Avenue.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, it is the clean title that is the reason for the
I
request.
think it
for
gives the
variance.
church the flexibility in the future just to have clean title and can not have to worry about, perpetual easements and.
Okay.
Mr. Schuman, may I add
Yes,
something,
absolutely.
please? The two properties on Eastern Avenue extend beyond the back of the church. I think the question you were asking had to do with
True.
why, I'm sorry. So if you can see from this diagram, the Eastern Avenue properties actually are deep properties, and they go beyond the back of the church.
Right.
So by redrawing these boundaries, we get, in essence, a big backyard now that we don't have with these new boundaries being drawn. Because instead of this piece of property extending to the back of the church, this piece of property gives us all of this property behind the church. Does that make sense? No?
Not really, because you own all this already.
Right.
So I don't understand what is changing.
Well, like I said,
You have the right and flexibility already because through ownership. to do whatever you want.
Yeah, you're right, you're right.
Yeah, so I'm just,
And I think we're not as astute as the gentleman who rents a lot of properties. So we were thinking about the privacy of the residents who are renting the property and giving us the ability to access the back of our church and giving them the ability to use the property that they're renting. So, I'm sorry if I didn't answer your question.
no, don't apologize. No, absolutely, you answered it. Thank you.
Anything else? All right, if there are no more questions, we'll close the record. The new exhibits will become part of the record as well. And we will get to deliberations shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our next application is for special exception 24003, application by Feder Management Corp., property owner and Senor Market LLC, applicant to establish a supermarket having more than 500 gross square feet of floor area devoted to preparation or storage of food items to be prepared on the premises. This relates to the property located at 121 Hillsmere Drive in that little shopping center there.
Mr. Gallagher,
Yeah.
are you accepting public comment on the churches?
Not unless you submitted them by noon today,
Got it, I wasn't sure if you could show up, that's fine.
but you managed to make your point. Thank you. Yeah, you can testify in person, but you still have to sign up by noon to do that.
And the record remain public comment?
No, the record's closed now. All right, so Kim, is this yours?
Yes, it is. You ready? As you said, this is a special exception for the applicant Seniors Market LLC to have a supermarket with more than 500 square feet of floor area devoted to storage or preparation of food prepared on the premises. This is a application that is very favorable to the city. It complies with the comprehensive plan for economic vitality, among other things. The use has the same amount of parking as the previous use that was Tuesday mornings, so there's no increase in parking. It's an established shopping center, so it's really, in the simplistic form, a change of tenant for an existing space. And I know that the applicant is going to discuss the project also. Oh, and we did have public testimony, which I did email to you all, from Alderman Schandelmeyer as a private citizen in favor of this application.
Yes, we've seen that. Are you satisfied that the notice and posting rules have been satisfied?
Yes, we've received the affidavit of posting and mailings from the applicant's attorney.
All right, I see we have a host of people representing the applicants. Let me remind you that we've read your application and the exhibits. We've read the staff report and exhibits, carefully considered them. I think we have a pretty good idea what's going on. We ask you not to unnecessarily repeat matters that are already in front of us, but if there's something that you think is important and you'd like us to know, you have the opportunity to do that. Do all of you intend to speak tonight?
No.
All right. Well, whoever does, would you affirm, subject to the penalties for perjury, that the evidence you give tonight will be true to the best of your knowledge?
I'm an attorney for the applicant, so you might want to swear in if there are questions for the witness, for any of the members of the ownership group and the landlord.
Would each of you affirm to that statement? Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Would you like to introduce yourself and your clients?
Thank you, Mr. Gallagher. My name is Kinley Bray. I'm with YVS Law. I'm a zoning attorney here in Annapolis. The address is 185 Admiral Cochrane Drive, Suite 130, 21401. Here on behalf of Seniors Market. I know it's always difficult, particularly for an attorney, to resist the opportunity to highlight all of the things in our case. But in this particular case, I think Ms. Burke and her staff report is really excellent and very thorough, covering not only the analysis that staff performed of the application, but also an independent analysis on the comprehensive plan. You heard this is a reletting of the existing former Tuesday morning space in the Bay Ridge Shopping Center. With me tonight and available for questions are Mr. Freddie Samaran, and his son Harry, who are the part of the owners of Seniors Market and the operators of Seniors Chile restaurants in our area, and as well as Nathan Rader, who is the broker of record for Fetter Management on behalf of Bay Ridge Center LLC. The only thing I would like to point out is that the property owner applicant is listed in the staff report, and I think this is a result of just sort of the citizen self-service system as Fetter Management LLC, which is an entity that doesn't exist. It's Fetter Management Corporation as managing agent for the Bay Ridge Center LLC. With that correction, I really have nothing to add to the staff report. Thank you very much for the analysis, Ms. Burke, and thank you for your time this evening. We are available for questions should the board have them.
Well, thank you, and for the preparation you put into this is very helpful. Let's see if we have any questions. Mr. Zazali?
I am without question.
It's about as straightforward as it can be, isn't it? Dr. Chen? Mr. Hector?
No questions.
Gosh, you guys have a game to get to? All right. All right. With that, we will close the record and we'll move to deliberations, and we should have a decision for you in the next 10 or 15 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Bray. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
All right. So deliberations, we'll start with Mount Zion Church. Variance 2024-005. Anyone like to lead off discussion on that?
Well, I, for one, never want to discourage the cleaning up of lot lines and the organizing of properties that are not trying to backdoor their way into some additional building, right? And this absolutely does not appear to be the case. And the church is in a different business than we are. We are in the business of lot lines and setbacks and special exceptions and all that other stuff. So I think for their own peace of mind and not being in the landlording business, they wish to have a clean title to the property that they use and operate and function on, and have a clean title to rent and lease and sell and do whatever else they want to do. And never the two shall intermix, and there's nothing wrong with that. If they want to go through the time and expense and effort to do that, and we as a board find no objectionable grounds for denying that request, I feel comfortable that we should approve that request. I see no reason not to.
I take it you are satisfied that the variance criteria have been...
I am exceedingly satisfied. I feel confident in saying that.
Dr. Chen?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with my fellow member.
You can say it, verbose.
I don't know if that's the first time I've said that. The reason I queried so carefully on what exactly is happening here was because I was focused on the title and making it clean. Oh, that's okay, I don't need it. And I live in Eastport, and I know what a mess that peninsula is property-wise, and there's a lot of strange lots in Eastport.
Right. I'm going to cut you off. This gives them nothing, this gives them no more rights than they don't already
Exactly.
have. What it gives them is peace of mind.
Exactly.
So those are two different.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Mr. Hector?
I agree with Mike 100%. And I see no reason why we should oppose this.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you on that. Makes things much simpler for the church. If they do sell the place, they know they'll have access from the rear and a little extra space back there that they wouldn't have otherwise if they didn't straighten out the lot lines. So, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve variance 2020005, variance application by Mount Zion Church for all the reasons stated in the application, the testimony provided, and fulfilling the requirements in the bulk regulation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Happy to do that for the church. And let's move on to special exception 24003, Senor's Market. Who would like to lead off on that?
Somebody else take a turn.
Sorry?
Somebody else can take a turn.
Dr. Chen?
Go ahead.
Ladies first. Ladies first.
You first.
I went over the variance a couple of times. It is, at an economic standpoint, it's going to be an addition to the city of Annapolis culture, and I see no reason why we should oppose it.
Yeah. I'm on board. We'll put a little more pressure on Walter and he can up his game. So a motion?
I move to approve special exception SE 2024-00003 based on the evidence provided in the testimony and the staff report.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Bray, and your clients. We look forward to the opening of Senor's Market. Any other business for the board tonight?
Confirm the calendar if possible.
Are we going to have business for our July meeting?
Have some things, and I believe Kim had already asked if there was a quorum, and there was.
For July?
July 2nd, I think.
Yeah, and we don't need a second meeting in June. That's good.
Hearing none.
Is there a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
You learn very quickly. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Meeting is adjourned.